At this rate, I'm going to have to rename my main channel Ben's Timex Club instead of Ben's Watch Club. Because yes, these guys are back at it yet again. It seems like moments since I was looking at their last hit watch, and I suspect we've got another one in here. And these should be a development of my most worn watch ever. This one, the E-Line Automatic, which I think just looks fantastic. I've practically hoarded these at this point, and I think my wife's getting a bit jealous. She's probably a bit concerned I'm going to disappear to Barbados with one of these things. But either way, this watch wasn't perfect for everyone because, as you can see, given that it fits my pretty skinny arm, it is a rather small watch. This is a 34mm watch, and while it does wear a bit bigger than that, it still was far from a large watch. And secondly, this elasticated band. Now, I quite like this thing, to be honest. I think it's probably the best of this type I've come across, but for those of you who rival the Yeti in terms of furriness, this thing was never going to be super friendly. And the watch we have in here changes both of those things. Whether for the better or not remains to be seen. I guess we'll find out in a second. But yeah, they've gone and released a new watch that I've already seen people coining online, the Timex Nautilus. A nod to the Patek Philippe Nautilus, which is far above the price bracket of this channel. And having seen the pictures of this online, I can kind of understand why. I can't lie, this thing looks fantastic yet again in the pictures. But I will mention something about the pictures later on in this video, because there was kind of one sus thing about this. But otherwise, I think we are in for a treat. So let's take a look, eh? Now, find these watches affiliate linked in the video description as always. And thanks to Timex for letting me purchase these at a discounted rate. It means I can just generally cover more Timexes. And to be honest though, there was no way I wasn't purchasing this one either way. And indeed, I've gone ahead and purchased two different versions of this. But there is 3 colours in total. Yes! And here she is, your first look at the new Timex E-Line Automatic 38mm. And straight out of the gate, you can see why people are calling this the Timex Nautilus, can't you? And it's funny because this watch has released mere days after the previous one I covered. And in that video, I already mentioned that I thought it looked somewhat like the Nautilus because it had that horizontal teak deck pattern. And that pattern has re-emerged immediately again with this watch. It is ever so slightly different. But yeah, someone in the Timex design team definitely likes Gerald Genter, or the success associated with his designs, and has gone for something rather similar indeed. Definitely not a one-to-one clone like loads of the ones you see on AliExpress. But it's not difficult to see where this inspiration has been drawn from, is it? And yeah, this is the blue colour and definitely looks quite a bit different to the blue versions that were available in the smaller watch, which I've got right here in fact. And when the two are side by side, you'll notice that there's actually a fair few differences. They really are both E-lines in name and overall shape only. You can see evidently the 38mm is significantly bigger, and I anticipate will wear bigger than that measurement as well. But many of the other aspects too are quite varied. The standard E-line doesn't really have that textured dial, nor does it have the same handset. It's got a little bit of luminescence, it seems like, on this one on the left. Am I imagining that? No, it does have a thin strip down the middle. It looks like a luminescence. And while the one on the right looked kind of like an integrated bracelet watch, this one on the left is an integrated bracelet watch, with the biggest remaining difference being the rather large bezel you get on the one here on the left. And also the blue here, this is like the super light blue version of the E-line, with the other one just being a simple dark blue, whereas this one sits a little bit in between, almost like a shiny denim blue. Certainly more complex, maybe a bit more impressive on a macro level. You can see that sunburst there in the background. And I'll run you through the specs and measurements after we've taken a quick look at this second colour. I can't remember, was it the white one I ordered as well? I think it probably was. Yeah, it is the white one we got here, which in the flesh actually a bit more like a silver. Can't remember what it's described as on the site. Yeah, here's the white /silver version. And again, very impressive detailing on the dial there. Maybe a bit troublesome in terms of legibility though, as you can see. Certainly not the most legible watch I've encountered. And as well as this particular colour, some of that just comes from the inherent properties of having lines going across the dial. You can see on both of these watches, the lines do pass directly underneath the logo. So a little bit different than that previous Timex where they stopped prematurely. Here, the Timex is kind of bridging across the gap. But yeah, out of the gate, I think definitely my favourite is the blue of these two. to, or certainly the one might get a bit more use out of. So what's this one packing? Well, first up here, we've got a stainless steel case, as usual. Almost certainly 316L stainless steel. And Timex's finishing certainly got a bit better over the years. Now, this is far from their cheapest watch that they produce, so you would expect it to look decent, and, well, it certainly does look decent enough. This one's got a rather aggressive vertically brushed finish here on all of the top surfaces, while some of these other elements have got a high polish finish instead. There's quite a tall bezel on this one, although not the thickest watch I've seen, definitely not. I'll have to get the calipers out in a moment. Atop this watch is probably the most contentious part of the spec sheet, that being this mineral crystal we've got here. Now, at this price, I think it could definitely be argued that you'd expect a piece of sapphire here. What I will say is, as you can see, this isn't a typical circular crystal. With that slightly square shape here, this is definitely going to be more of a custom job crystal, and as such, it will cost them a bit more to manufacture. They can't just drop in a preset circular crystal like most brands can. The last one used quite a different setup. This one had a raised and rather large acrylic crystal instead. Well, that counts as an upgrade or a side grade, or maybe a downgrade. Guess it depends on how much you like using polywatch, but it does at least have a pretty decent legibility. Bracelet, meanwhile, I'm guessing, yes, it's going to be same script as last time, effectively. 95% of this bracelet is pretty decent, definitely good enough for the price. Got solid links here. We've got a at least semi-custom design with the shape of them. So the actual quality of it's pretty good. And then you get to the clasp. Now this, I don't think is quite as egregious as some of the other models. So some of those other models have got like a more classic style clasp, and they've just omitted micro adjustment holes, basically. Whereas these butterfly clasps, the vast majority of them on the market inherently don't have a way to adjust them. So they can be somewhat forgiven here. Would really have appreciated a smaller link though, because like with most Timexes, you can only adjust in link-sized increments, and that just is pushing it a bit in 2026, especially when it's an integrated design that you're going to find hard to replace. Now, technically you can remove these. They've got the normal spring bars here, but the gap you'll be left with is going to be rather limited. How wide is that? Somewhere around 12 millimeters. So yeah, you'd need pretty much a custom strap, which kind of sucks. So it's really going to depend where your wrist size lands with this bracelet. It's the only real reason I don't really like butterfly clasps. But visually, definitely suits the watch here. Looks fantastic, this thing. And it does also come in one other colour, that one being a silver gold one, or is it rose gold? Hard to tell exactly from the pictures, but I did see someone on Reddit point out that at some point Timex ended up having to change the stock images on that watch, because originally the bracelet had like an alternating central link with gold and silver, but they've since changed that to just a straight gold down the centre. Just thought that was an interesting last-minute adjustment. You don't really see that in the watch industry all too often. But yeah, otherwise, I do think these watches look as good in the flesh as they do online. And around the back, we can also see the movement on this one, which I don't think was the case last time, no. And what have we got here? 21 jewel, looks like a Miyota unit. Oh, I think it does say, actually, for once. Probably would have been my first guess anyway, the Miyota 8215. So, far from the best movement, and 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said this movement's a pretty underwhelming inclusion at this price, but lately watches with all these mainstream movements have been shooting up in price, so that's not exactly unexpected these days. Water resistance here, despite the screw back, is only 5 bar, which may be a little disappointing considering the price hike here over the previous one. Maybe would have liked to have seen 10 bar here to make this like a proper sports watch, really. Can probably take this one light swimming, but I wouldn't risk any more than that. What I will say is they've done a fairly decent job of keeping the Miyota 8215 looking not too fat. Yeah, maybe it's the way they've kind of separated the mid case here. Certainly makes the watch look thinner than most other Miyota 8000 watches I've seen. Now this is advertised as a 38mm watch. And what do we get across the centre? About 38.3 actually, so a hair bigger than that. Where the lug to lug, well, exact lug to lug, is about 45.9. But if you include those rather steeply tapering end links there, this will definitely be over 50. Oh, no, it won't. I'm wrong. 48.73. So, yeah, maybe not quite as big as I expected. Bezel does appear a fraction narrower than the case. Thickness, by the way, with the stickers removed, 11.93, so just under 12 millimeters there. And as expected, this is a little bit on the large side for my rather small 6¼ inch wrist. My wrist perfectly hosted the 34mm watch, but not quite the same this time around. I've seen 1 or 2 people online saying once they'd received this that they felt like the watch was too small, but no, this definitely wears large for 38mm just due to that more squared off shape. This to me feels more like a 39.5mm watch, maybe even 40, but looks smart. smart, doesn't it? Very, very smart, if a little bit predictable. Here's a look at the on-wrist thinness, and well, you can see what I mean about the use of the Miyota there. I've seen many Seiko and Miyotas that look a lot thicker than this, considering it's a rather entry-level movement. And look to look is actually quite respectable on this. This, surprisingly, doesn't extend past the ends of my wrist, but it's just the extra weight here in the corners, I think, that makes it look a bit too chunky for me. But I do think the vast majority of you out there will have no problems with this whatsoever. And I did see some user photos of the other version of this watch on Reddit, and it kind of made me regret not picking that one up instead of the white. I suspect this white one might be a little bit on the boring side for me, but really versatile colour this. This is exactly the colour of numerous pairs of jeans I've got. Yeah, well, this one still looks good. Maybe looks a bit more businessy. I think maybe a little predictable for my taste. Arguably looks a bit more period appropriate. I think this is targeting still that retro, is it 70s vibe, these 70s, 80s? This one looks a bit more like some of the vintage E-lines I've seen hovering around on eBay. They've also changed the typeface on these a little bit. You'll notice where it says at the bottom here, E-line and automatic. A bit hard to read, as I said earlier on this white one. Has a slightly more rounded off font, which looks okay. Definitely not distracting, but maybe prefer the text on the old one. But one thing I will test is that low light performance, because that's something the old one lacked completely. So does this actually offer up anything reasonable? Probably not. One of the bugbears with Timex. Oh, and maybe that's just for show. Is that not luminescent? No. Oh, okay, that is not what I was expecting. I guess maybe it didn't say on the listing that there was any lume. This can't be just my torch running out, can it? I'll just try this Hamilton real quick. Oh, no, my torch definitely works properly. So yeah, a bit of a disappointment there. I don't know why they would not put the real thing in, apart from to cut costs. Or maybe that inclusion was purely for aesthetics. But yeah, you would think from looking at it that it would have something there, but no, it doesn't. And no, I guess actually they don't put it anywhere on the listing. So good luck reading this in the dark. And one of the reasons that's frustrating is just because this watch does cost more than its predecessor. The 34mm one, I think, still retails brand new for about £200. And that's at full price anyway. Whereas this new one is $325 instead. And while you definitely get kind of more for your money in a way, it's definitely a bigger watch, got a bit more complexity going on there on the dial for sure, and the bracelet is much hardier. I do have maybe more nitpicks with it actually than the old one. That price, by the way, $379 USD. Either way, I do still think it looks fantastic for the price. I mean, whoever is working at Timex's design team, they are doing a phenomenal job. I mean, they've released so many good-looking watches at the very least over the last 6 to 12 months. You've got to wonder, surely AI can't be involved at this, can it? Because they're just coming out with them so fast. It reminds me of some of those ChatGPT memes I've seen, you know, with the AI slaving away behind the scenes there. I wonder if that's what Timex is doing to their design team, because, man, they are producing some very handsome watches, even if it's got some imperfections. And it isn't just a straight-up copy. It also looks a bit like the Man watch. Is it the Manhattan? Yeah, the Manhattan. Yeah, certainly looks a little bit similar to that as well, but again is substantially cheaper. If this was like a Swiss brand with a Swiss brand name on it, they would just straight up charge you at least 30% more. At least. But yeah, there's a quick first look at the Timex Nautilus, aka the E-line 38mm. It's linked below if you want to take a look at it for yourself, and I'd probably be quick on this one. I suspect, like the previous E-lines, which keep selling out almost as soon as they arrive back in stock, it might be a similar story with these, especially at 38mm.